And I remember when I crossed the finish line at my first Ironman event, I remember thinking, if I can do this, anybody can, right? Anybody really can. You just have to, you've got to commit yourself. And the Ironman analogy is just such a wonderful analogy for business, right? You hop in the water for a 2.4 mile swim, you dry yourself off, you pull off the wetsuit, you hop on the bike for 112 miles, just to top it off with a marathon at the end. It's great, but it's really the last couple of miles on that marathon when you're starting to hear the music near the finish line and the hair on the back of your neck starts to stand up. It didn't matter. The prior 15 hours of the day, they melt away. And it propels you to the finish line. And if you stick around long enough in the small business marketplace, you'll see an awful lot of those kinds of stories, right? People that they almost drown in the water, right? It was tough the first leg of the race. And they rode a while, maybe coasted a bit in the middle, and the run was tough. But as they near the finish line and approach retirement and exit that business, hopefully with a check in hand, right? Because they've sold something of value off to someone else, the hair stands on the back of your neck. And we should all celebrate that achievement for the employee who reaches retirement or the business owner that reaches that point where they can hand it off to their kids or grandkids. It's a wonderful thing in this country to be able to do those things and very exciting.
Now that's a nice segue. I want to ask you a couple of things about entrepreneurship, and we give out a lot of advice on this podcast for entrepreneurs or people that want to be an entrepreneur or start a business. Let me just ask you, what advice would you give to that business owner that, let's say they're in the middle, right? They just finished the swim and they're taking off the wetsuit and getting ready to get on the bike, and it's painful. They're cold. They're tired. They're thinking, I don't know if I can do this. At that moment, let's say they're 2 years in, they're 24 months in, they're starving, they're 2 months behind on their mortgage, they've already drained their savings, but they have a great service or a great product and they believe in it, but they're tired, they're almost out of money. Talk to that person. What advice would you give that person?
I've been there. I definitely had those experiences. I think, perseverance is, certainly an underrated trait in the small business environment. I think if you believe in what you're doing and it can make a difference for people, then it's probably worth pursuing. Now, your spouse may disagree. And I've had those experiences. My wife is as supportive as anyone can be, given the lifestyle that I've chosen to live in the small business world. It isn't easy on the household, but at the end of the day, again, if what you have makes a difference to people and you can make a positive, indelible mark either on the planet or your local community or wherever the case may be, it's certainly worth pursuing. Now, the grain of salt there is you may have to supplement your income for a while. I mean, if you are behind on the mortgage, the bank's not too thrilled about that, right? And what comes next is not too much fun. So you may have to kind of, take your time and slow. So let's use the bike analogy. If you get out of your wetsuit and you hop on that bike for a 112-mile ride and you boogie it up that first hill because you're all, charged up and ready to go and you can't wait, you may not finish the 112 miles, right? You've got to pace yourself. And my coach, he would say to me, listen, Ironman is all about the second half of the run. So it isn't at all about how well you do on the bike or how well you swim. It's about the second half of the run. If you're starting the second 13.1 miles and you feel good, you've paced yourself properly. And I think pace is important in business because we don't have an endless supply of cash generally, right? You've got to apportion that properly, and that's that's a management problem. And I learned that very early on, helping some of these doctors work through their systems and cash flow. They're generating a tremendous amount of cash flow. They're just spending it all. Like, well, when the month ends, if you don't have anything in the bank, you didn't get any further than you did the month before, right? Let's understand. And that's an exercise that I think in the small business environment, it's amplified, right? Any small environment amplifies that outcome, both good and bad.
Right.
And we've got to be aware of that as small business people. And look, I'm cut from the cloth of small business, so my heart bleeds for those people, and I love to help them. I love it, right? And to the extent I can, and quite frankly, vice versa, right? That the reciprocal of that is also true. Small business owners, they're very willing to help folks. The same is true in the pilot community. As a pilot of a small aircraft, you go to any airport, there isn't a pilot there that won't help you with something. It's a wonderful environment, and I've just been privileged enough to be surrounded by those environments as I've grown and built my career, and again, my wife has been the rock, the most supportive of all.
It is true. I mean, for those listeners, yes, once you're an entrepreneur and a business owner, or you're even thinking about starting a business, there are a ton of people that will help you. I mean, almost every business owner I've ever met, any type of entrepreneur, they're just willing to just give you all the advice they can. They actually want to see you succeed. Even if they're a competitor, sometimes they'll just talk to you because they it's like this brotherhood, right? They just want you to do well. And there are a ton of people that will give advice. I couldn't agree more.